ThoughtWorks blog, measuring the value of a data catalog. So this is going to be interesting. I mean, data catalog, it looks like it's always valuable. Let's see if the conclusion is the same or not, or is it a misconception? As a global online class fields organization, Adevinta has a wealth of data. Okay, so they have a lot of data. Accessing it is possible through DataHub, a famous open source for accessing catalog, a portal for open data. With it, teams can not only create, read, update, delete, and integrate data, they can ultimately use it to unlock business insights and develop data products. So it's not only for metadata, it's actually for accessing business insights and developing data products with this DataHub open source. Machine learning, models, or for testing and experimentation. A core part of DataHub is the data catalog. This allows users to discover data, request access, and begin exploring it. It acts as an linchpin for many services within DataHub and is often the starting point for user journeys with DataHub. So its main focus is the data catalog, but it allows for actual data analysis. A number of ThoughtWorks consultants joined Adevinta's Barcelona-based team to collaborate on the data catalog. Together, we were tasked with extending the functionality of the catalog and proving its value for the organization. Okay, so by reading this, it looks to me like the answer is going to be yes, it's valuable. I mean, looks like we are going to prove this. Okay, so let's continue. As with any other internal delivery platform, proving the value of a data catalog can be challenging because it isn't directly linked to the business goals of the organization, or to the customer value. In this blog post, we'll explain how we tackled this challenge. Doing so meant the team we worked with at Adevinta was well placed to communicate and illustrate the value of the data catalog to users. Subjective measurements are error-prone. A typical way of measuring the value of a... This is a good question now. Let's ignore the fact that we know what the results are going to be. Let's think when we need to measure the impact of a product. On one way, we can ask with surveys. This would give us some. But on the other way, we want to understand what is the actual value. I mean, does it has an actual value on the bottom line of the company, which is basically pretty important, I would say? Or are we just going to view some metrics like are users using it every day? If they're using it every day, then this means it's useful, but does it mean it's wasting the time? It's adding to their productivity. Okay, so subjective measurements are error-prone. A typical way of measuring the value of a digital product is to understand the business process. You might, for example, measure how long it takes your users to accomplish their goals and set this as a baseline. Once you have set the baseline, you can then measure whether your product improved this process. We started the discovery phase of the project trying to understand how users at Adevinta discover data. It turned out that a lot of them relied on their networks, and a lot of the knowledge was tribal. When conducting the user interviews, we asked them how much time they spend on data discovery, and in the end found that customers spend around 40% of their time on various activities connected to data discovery. This can make sense to anyone who is working with data. A big bulk of the time is understanding which data to use and where is it, and is it the data to use. Such as searching for datasets, trying to understand its schema and usage, and finally searching for the owner to request access. That 40% became the baseline that we set out to reduce. The main problem of this approach is that people are not good at estimating how much time they spend on creative and exploratory tasks that are open-ended. In the case of data discovery, running subsequent surveys yielded results that varied more than seemed logically possible. For example, some questionnaires resulted in a 3 to 4-fold decrease compared to the baseline 40%. Attaching value to the catalog using just this 1% became impossible, even somewhat reductive. We realized that it would be far better to identify specific pain points in the baseline process model and start optimizing those. Okay, so instead of just asking whether it helps you or not, how much time are you using it, let's discover the pain points and let's see if this process helps you. A refined approach to measuring value. As a course of correction, we realized we had to model all the stages users go through during their journey from data discovery to value extraction. The process was split into 3 phases: search and discrimination, request access to data, and validate with exploration. So for the first stage, users are doing some search. At the second stage, they get some access to the data, and at the final stage, they actually use the data. Each of the phases contains actions that bring value to the user. When a user requests access to the data and that request is approved, for example, they are then able to begin exploring the data. These actions represent leads that allows us to measure how much time it takes for the user to reach that point in the process. Leads are measured within the catalog by generating an event every time a user performs an action within the tool. We can assign monetary value to those leads based on the cost of development time and use them as a proxy to measure. Okay. Measure the value of the catalog brings. So we are trying to track the user behavior through the data hub and assign monetary value to his action. Let's say request access, then we say, okay, the user has found something, now he needs access. Okay, let's give this action $10. Additionally, contrasting, because instead of this, he would need to spend 2 hours. Contrasting the time it takes for a user to perform actions within the catalog to the data from the user interviews we did meant that the team was able to estimate that the catalog saves its user. So basically the comparison is how much time does it take you to perform a certain action, to search for data, to request access, to use the data through Data Hub versus without it. On average, 2 days of data discovery. Conclusion. So this was short. Both of the approaches at the Vinta took solely relying on user interviews and calculating how much time people spend to reach certain points in the process aim to estimate how much effort people spend on data discovery. In the end, we needed to come up with a process model for the whole user journey and focus on pain points within it. It allowed us to identify value-adding steps and assign quantified monetary amounts to them. This practice has allowed us to articulate and communicate the value of the catalog in a much more granular way. In turn, it also gave us framework for future optimizations. Okay, so this was it. So basically, they say we gave some monetary estimations on actions on Data Hub that didn't give too much information, but the main point here is that we were estimating based on split the user actions to a couple of items: searching for data, requesting access, using the data. We give it a monetary value, compare it to how much time it takes to do this manually, and based on that, estimate and justify the product that you are using.